Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the guest that I have on today. He and I actually just recently connected. I'm very, very interested in the company that he has and the things that he's doing in his life, not only with his business, but also with his family. So it's exciting for me to welcome my good friend, Matt Beaudreau, to Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Bryan, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. It's always an
Yeah.
honor, man, to get asked. So appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. I'm glad we connected. I'm looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better. But before we get
Thanks.
started, let's kind of jump into kind of a back history of you, kind of how you grew up and kind of how the things you got into now, what you're doing now. And then obviously this is a dad podcast. So I want to know about your family as well.
Yeah, you bet, man. I'll give you the 30,000 foot overview and then you take it wherever you want to go from there. So I'm a native California guy too. So I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and my wife as well. And so, grew up normal middle class household and I always tell people I was really good at school. That's important for what the work is that I do now. I was really good at school, but I wasn't that smart. I figured out the game of school very, very early. And so I got straight A's without ever trying. And that again is very important to what I do now. So I got straight A's without ever trying. So school was all, growing up was about sports, it was about girls. I got my straight A's because I just knew the game. But then, you get done with high school and you're like, oh, shoot. Okay, now what? Where do I go? Well, everybody's going to college. I guess I'll go to college. Went to college, got my straight A's again because, again, I knew the game of school. But really, what happened was I got better at sports. I got better at girls, and still graduated and went, okay, now what? I actually turned down a job at the White House, leaving college, but then had no idea where to go. So working through a series of few odd jobs landed me at Stanford University, worked there for a while, and I started to see the game from the other side. I knew how to play the game as a student. I started to see the game from the other side. So from Stanford, went in to become a teacher in the public school system in California, became a school administrator, went into the private sector, school teacher, school administrator, ultimately, which led me to leave all of that to create my own campuses. So I created a number of campuses, K through 12 campuses in California, um, predominantly because I wanted my kids to go somewhere that I wanted them to go. So they never attended a school that I didn't build. And then I partnered with Mr. Tim Kennedy to build a mentorship program that has now expanded to mentoring hundreds of men, women, young men, actually thousands, if we're putting them all together. All over the world, we're launching K through 12 campuses under our umbrella now as well. We've got about 50 campuses launching this fall, another 100 launching in 2025. So
Hmm.
never hurting for something to do. And that is a very large 30,000 foot overview. There's a lot obviously in there too, but we can go wherever you want to go from there.
Well, tell me about your family.
Oh man. So best wife on the planet. We have been married. This year will be 19 years married, 16 together. She and I met in California. She's California born and raised as well. But she's a farm girl at heart. So, we recently moved 2 years ago out to the mountains of North Carolina, bought a farm out here. And that is her wheelhouse. She runs the farm. She just lets me know when I need to chop something or move something or kill something or so all all the farm things. And then I've got 13-year-old and 11-year-old daughters. The 13-year-old is actually out working right now. She works about 30 hours a week on a ranch right now. She is a horse girl, so she works on a ranch, works at camps, teaches people how to ride. She doesn't know what she wants to do as she gets older, but she knows it's going to be some resemblance to what she's doing right now with all the horses. My 11-year-old is a competitive gymnast and the sweetest thing on the planet. Then I got a savage young man who is 8, and he's a kickboxer and ninja warrior and just an all-around stud of a human. So yeah, I got the
Uh,
best family a man could ask for.
That's awesome. What are the, we'll dive into your family a little bit, but first, what is I think I'm very interested in the campuses that you created. My wife's a school
Sure.
teacher. She's a
Yeah,
junior high school teacher in the private sector. She has
got it.
been there for 17, 18 years. A couple of weeks, she'll be done with her master's in administration because she wants to move into the administration part of the education system.
Yeah.
And, so I'm really curious, what's the name of is there a specific name for all these campuses or?
Yeah, so the umbrella company is Apogee Strong, Apogee Strong.
Oh, okay. It's
Um,
on your hat. Yeah, I see that.
yes, sir. Yeah, on the hat here we got Apogee San Diego. That's one of our campuses that's opening up. And so everything is under the Apogee umbrella. Our mentorship programs are designed to be able to stand alone. They're under the Apogee umbrella. We got about 250 homeschool families, all under the Apogee umbrella. We have these K through 12 campuses, all under the Apogee umbrella. So everything is under Apogee strong.
Hmm. And do you know do you know how many campuses you have exactly?
So I started a number of campuses that were under a different umbrella in Northern California. I started three in particular that I launched in Northern California. Tim and I started the mentorship side first, and then decided to go ahead and the demand was too crazy to not do our own campuses. So this fall, Tim and I have Apogee Cedar Park, which is in Texas, but this fall we will open 50 campuses. And then fall of 2025, it looks like we're going to do another 100.
Hmm.
So
All right.
50.
Well,
Yes, fall of 2024.
I may be touching base with you because I don't know if you're going to open up any South Carolina, but
Yeah, well, what's cool is that we do an affiliate model. So it is not us deciding where to go. It is people going, hey, we need to bring this to our community. And then they go through an application process, and then we partner with them and give all the support. So we say it's like franchise level support with affiliate level costs. So it's much more like launching launching a CrossFit kind of deal. In terms of the business model, we're going to come alongside you and make sure you know how to do it well, but it's your business. So yeah, I'm glad to talk to anybody and everybody. I think we had some applicants from South Carolina this year, which is cool.
all right, awesome. Well, let me ask you this then. Obviously, before we dive into your family a little bit, I want to ask you more about the business, but what inspired you to start that? Because it's fascinating to me because we know that maybe it's because of the way the school systems are now and the way that they've been has been frustrating. That's why my boys grew up in the private sector, going to Christian schools their whole lives because we didn't want them to go to the public school system. We just weren't attracted to it and heard a number of frustrating things about the school systems in our area. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of kids that go to the public school systems that thrive and do well and have no issues. But we wanted our boys from the ages of kindergarten all the way up through high school and even college. They went to a private Christian university in Arizona called Grand Canyon University. We wanted them to go have that, not only that education, but also that biblical I guess background as well, So what really inspired you to want to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I want to make sure to echo what you're saying. There are some phenomenal humans in public schools, private schools. There's phenomenal humans there. And I'm talking students and teachers, right? And administrators. We hear about all the bad stuff. And there's some crazy stuff, but there's some phenomenal humans. I have no doubt, I've never had the pleasure of meeting your wife. I have no doubt she's one of those phenomenal humans working. And I know she's not in the public sector, but she's still working in that. Fantastic people. I don't love the system itself because I came to understand where the system came from. When I say system, I mean the way we all grew up going to school. You got this grade, you study this subject, and this is how school works. You get everybody in the desks, you get everybody. I came through my own, again, remember I said very early on, I figured out the game early, right? I remember being four, starting kindergarten at 4. And I remember sitting in a classroom and they grouped us. And I remember I was in the red group. And they grouped us together. And I remember, I can clearly see it. I was in the classroom and I went, okay, well, that group over there has the most trouble reading because we're about to do a reading exercise. They have the most trouble. They have a little bit less than them. They've got a little bit less than them. And this is the best group of readers in the classroom. Got it. Okay, we're playing a game. Got it. They're grouping us based on how well they think we read. And by 8 years old, I remember very clearly going, I know exactly how to get A's from any teacher I ever have. This is not difficult. I see the patterns, right? So I got that as a kid. But then again, working at Stanford, I started seeing, okay, these kids are all way smarter than me, but they're struggling with life. School life, not exactly the same games. So as I go in naively thinking, well, I'm going to go shift things from the inside and become a school teacher, become a school administrator, and start going, okay, well, there's a whole lot of politics at play. There's a whole lot of money. When are we going to start talking about the kids? No, this kid needs algebra no, this kid needs to not be selling drugs when he gets home because his parents are in a gang. He doesn't need algebra right now. He needs something else. No. He needs algebra because we need money for the test. There were so many of these instances that I was experiencing that I, based on my own curiosity, was like, well, why do we do school this way? Why has it always been this way? If you ask that question and you're brave enough to find out what the answer is about behavior management. The answer is about creating an obedient population.
Mm,
Go back to where this system came from. It is a Prussian military system
right.
to garner obedience. Knowing that, I could no longer be a part of that system, public or private, that looks the exact same way. That is the outcome that that system is designed for. Again, great people that are in it, great people who do well, and I'll say they thrive in spite of, not because of it. I just could not be a part of that. I'm looking at my kids going, okay, I want to optimize their experience, right? I want them to play a game that mimics the game that they're going to play when they're older. To me, that just makes sense. Sure, I could feed them McDonald's for 2 meals a day and then feed them a good meal when they get home, and I could do that for 18 years. But is that optimizing their health? Well, no, that wouldn't be, right? To me, what I call conveyor belt schooling is the McDonald's of education. That's it. Sure, they're going to be fine. They're probably not dead, but that's not my goal as a parent, is to make sure they're kind of not dead. My goal is to make sure they're thriving. So I wanted to build something that mimicked life more than school did.
Mm,
That's our goal.
that's awesome. I think that's awesome. When it comes to that, I know exactly what you're saying, but I see the way the school systems have been when I grew up and to where they are now, just with my wife being
Yeah,
a school teacher, that there's a huge shift in the way that kids grow up, right?
yes,
And from
sir.
when I grew up to where they are now, there's a
Yes,
lot
sir.
of kids that are not taking responsibility for the things that they do or don't do. And I hear stories, a
Yeah.
lot of parents
Yep.
trying to control it and stepping in and protecting their kid when the
Yes, sir.
kid needs to learn.
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
that your system uh, kind of tries to prevent that from happening, where you're really helping the child thrive. And at the same time, that's allowing the parents to see, hey, my child is really doing well.
Yeah.
I don't really
And it's
need
not,
to try to protect them or do, you know what I
or
mean?
should I?
Right.
Right? Or should I? Because you're exactly right. There's a huge, so I don't pretend like the schooling system is the only issue we're facing, right? Because if you look at it from a cultural standpoint, there is a milieu of things that we got to push back on,
Hmm.
including parental apathy,
Yeah.
including the fact that mom and dad need to grow and be the example of growth, and then be okay with little Johnny growing as well, right? And understand what that looks like. So a big part of what we're developing on our side, our campuses, the young man or the young woman is the student that's there. Mom and dad go through education as well.
Yeah.
Apogee man, Apogee woman, those programs, they're designed to be able to stand alone so people can come in. You don't have to have a child at one of our campuses to go through those programs. But if you have a child at one of our campuses, you automatically go through those programs, because we want mom and dad to grow too. We want mom and dad to take on responsibility. We want mom and dad to get out of being apathetic. We want mom and dad to understand that they are the primary educator for that young human. Period. End of story. It does not matter where you send them. You're the primary educator. Who
Hmm.
you are matters so much to their growth and development. And we've lost that. I posted something the other day that, and I've heard. So one of the things I didn't mention is, while I was building schools, I was traveling around and doing 60 to 70 keynotes a year. That's how I was making money for my family, and working with all the Fortune 500 companies that you can think of. And I heard a lot from them. The thing that I posted is what this mentions. I heard this from companies all across the country for the last decade. Posted something the other day. It says, during job interviews, employers are saying recent college graduates have 53% struggled with making eye contact, 50% asked for unreasonable compensation. Yes, I understand wages have not risen with inflation, but what they're asking for, because I'm talking to these companies, is these young people are going, hey, why am I not making six figures? I have a college degree. And it's like, but you've never done anything and you provide no value right now. Right. But there is this sense of entitlement that comes.
Hmm.
Hey, guess what? Part of that entitlement, parents, that's your fault.
Yep.
Right. So 47% of them dressed inappropriately, 27% of them used inappropriate language, 21% of them refused to turn their camera on during a virtual interview.
Hmm.
And check this last one out. 19% of them, Bryan, brought a parent to their interview.
Oh my goodness.
That is a parenting issue. And I wish I could say this is just a meme that I found and I post. The reason I posted it is because I've spoken to companies around the world who have told me this exact same thing. That's a big time parenting problem too. So we've got a lot of things to work on here. It's not just a schooling thing. This is a cultural shift towards entitlement. We got to get away from it fast.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. It's interesting. Let me just make a little comment here.
Yes, sir.
Parents, we are not, my point is not to, beat you down, say you're doing it wrong, all those kinds of things. That's not what we're talking about here.
Uh,
But there are certain scenarios that I have heard of and that he's familiar with that proves that there is at times a parenting issue. A lot of times I will talk with, teachers and stuff like that, and they tell me stories and I go, that's not a child doing that. That is what I call learned behavior. And that learned behavior comes from the modeling of the parents and the household in general. So parents, it is our responsibility to not only teach our kids the difference between right and wrong, respect, being polite, all those kinds of things, but also the things that he talked about, showing eye contact, dressing appropriately when they have different things going on, doing those sorts of things, and making them be responsible for their actions. I'm not
yeah,
saying that you just cut them off and say, nope, you're handling this. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can assist and guide them, but let them take responsibility for whatever it is they need to do. And obviously that changes as they age. Obviously the younger
right,
ones are less mature. They're not quite sure how to handle that. But as your kids get older, especially the teenage years, I told my
right.
boys, listen, you got a problem with your teacher. Until I need to step in, you need to talk to your teacher. You need to go talk to them and tell them what's going on. I did
Yeah,
that when they played sports. My boys
yeah,
had a problem with something that was going on. I said, listen, let's talk to the coach. I'm going to stay away. You need to talk to the coach first, and I'll only step in if he's shutting you down. You know what I mean? If he's
yeah,
not listening to you. That's the only time
yeah.
I'm going to step in. And that's what I did. And it taught my boys responsibility. It taught my boys being accountable. And now they thrive. Don't get me wrong. They're older, 25, 22. They don't need
Sure.
my help anymore. They're grown men. They've graduated from college, all that kind of stuff. But they still call me or see me and ask me for advice on certain things.
Right.
My
And that's what
responsibility, yeah, my responsibility is to give them that advice and allow them to do what they want with it. They can take it or
right.
leave it, but they
That's right.
know whether they take it or leave it, they have to deal with whatever comes next. So,
Yeah. Nope, that's
anyways,
exactly it.
yeah.
And that's no, it's one of the things that is interesting that we actually kick off the entire the young men's program, the mentorship program. We talk to them about the fact that the word teenager was not even a word. It wasn't even a concept until 1944.
Hmm.
Prior to that, you're either a young man or you're a man,
Hmm.
right? And what came along with that? It's not obviously, what we get all the time is like, well, your brain's not fully developed until you're 25. Okay, great. Yep, I get it. Totally, 100%. Also, there still used to be 13-year-old and 14-year-old young men who were out working as surveyors and going into work. Like that was still there.
Hmm.
We have not changed from a biological perspective, from a DNA perspective. What's changed is the expectation. What changed is the expectation of our world. And so we've dumbed down these experiences for our young people. And we've gone, you're a teenager right now. So you're just going to be an idiot for 8 years, 9 years, and we'll just accept that. No, 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 no. They're still so capable. They're still so ready for responsibility.
Hmm.
And we can train them up that way and still give them a responsibility and experiences and support until we can back away,
Hmm.
until it is just advice, right? It's just like teaching any other sport. You're coaching them on basketball. You show them this is how to dribble, but then you don't end up playing the game for them. You stay out to the side, and it's that graduated experience, man. But we have to start with that understanding that
Yeah.
they are very, very capable. We have to start there.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up sports because I coached my boys from the ages of 4 all the way up through high school. They played
Awesome.
baseball, they played football, and they played basketball all through high school, especially.
Yeah.
And I was the associate head coach for the high school varsity basketball team. And it's funny, I'm very competitive. I'm a super competitive coach, but I'm very fair with my players. If they're not performing well, doesn't matter if they're my star player. If he's not performing well, he's going to come out and I'm going to put somebody else in. But
Yep.
I have a tendency to get fired up during games, and my wife would always tell me, she doesn't coach, but we always used to call her the assistant athletic director because she used to have her opinions on stuff. But she would tell me,
Yeah.
she goes, Bryan, you're coaching during the game. You're supposed to give instruction and coach at practice and just give them plays and stuff during the game. They're supposed to, and I'm like, I just get fired up and want to help them and all that kind of stuff. I can't
Yeah.
get on the
For
court, so I
sure.
got to scream at them, you know? Anyways, that's just a little sidebar, but your kids, so they went through your school system, right? They're going through it.
So they've never been to a school that I didn't create. Now we moved out here to North Carolina 2 years ago, and we don't have a campus out here that I built. So they've been home educated for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Right. And so
Okay.
until we and I could start another campus out here, or I could help the 150 campus owners, and that's taking precedence. So until we have somebody who applies out here, they're going to be home educated until we have something out here.
And does your wife
Uh,
handle that? Do you have somebody that handles that for them?
Um, they handled the majority of it because we've given them the tools to handle. So here's where it gets fun. What does education mean? Normally, we think of schooling and education as the same. If I say, hey, how do they handle their education? People automatically think academics only.
Hmm.
I ask people, what is education? It's not just academics. I quote unquote finished academics. So does that mean I'm fully educated now, or do I still
Hmm.
have room to grow? I've
Right.
got plenty of room to grow. So what does education mean? Education means every single thing they do. Education is the fact that they get up and they've got a ton of chores that are out here because we live on a farm now. Education means we've got a business where we sell some of these animals that we process here on site to local businesses. So they're helping to run the business of the farm. Education means as we continue to sell animals and breed animals and do that's part of the education. Education means I've got a competitive gymnast. I have somebody who is working out on a ranch, who is teaching other humans how to ride. She'll go do overnight 24-hour shifts. She's doing 30 hours a week working. I've got a young man who is a kickboxer who gets into Ninja Warrior. All of these things are education. Oh, and hey, by the way, there's academics that they do a little bit too. And what people don't, they either like to hear it or it really kind of goes, "Oh, I don't understand," is that first of all, grade level is not a real thing. But second of all, if we were going to say grade level is a thing, they're all destroying their grade level work in academia in like an hour a day.
Hmm.
And they're further along than the majority of their peers. They're reading multiple books. My 13-year-old has written multiple books, and I'm talking 300-page books.
Hmm.
Not because we forced it, but because she's wanted to. Um, so education and schooling aren't the same in my book, right? So we have developed very self-discipline driven humans.
That's cool.
So yeah, so of course, my wife and I take care of a lot because they're learning to run businesses by helping us run businesses.
Hmm.
They're learning these things by doing with us. Mom and dad move their own education forward and we bring them along with us. Oh, and then by the way, academics get done on the side too in a very small amount of time and they're crushing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's good. And I'm sure they're enjoying it, and obviously they're thriving and all that.
Yes,
They're
sir.
learning not only the education part, but they're also learning almost entrepreneurship, right? They're learning how to
Sure.
run businesses and stuff at a very young age, and that
It's
way,
education.
when they get ready to fly the coop and be on their own, they'll understand how to manage and handle when life hits them on on the chin, you know? So that's
That's
awesome.
what I'm saying. School,
Yeah,
you know,
you're super busy. And I want to ask this because it's super important. A lot of dads in particular struggle with this. I didn't, as a dad, and a businessman and a coach, and I actually I went when even in my early years, my boys were very little. I was going to college and all that kind of stuff to get my degree done. But so there was a lot of stuff I had going on, but I still managed to be an all-in dad. Like I did everything with the boys. I went to all their
Sure.
field trips. I went to all their parent-teacher conferences. I went to all the open houses. Went to all those types of things. I did it all. But you have a lot of things going on, you and your wife in particular. So what is your quality time with your kids look like?
That's a great question. And I want to preface this by saying, if you are not a quality human, no time with you is quality time.
Hmm.
I want to put that out there, right? Because there are dads, and I will say this too. I wish nothing ill upon my father. He and I don't speak anymore, don't have a great relationship, didn't have a great relationship. He used a lot of his career, um, as I grew up, he used the excuse of not moving forward in his career as he wanted to spend more time with us. But his time at home was he was angry, he was disappointed, he was battling his own demons. He would take a nap on the chair, right? There wasn't, yeah, he was there. There was a presence there, but it wasn't a great presence. So you being a quality human being who like that is the precursor to quality time, right? It's that. So that being said, there are days where I work. There are days where I work 15, 16 hours. There are those days, 100%. And I will make sure to be intentional about the 1 hour that I get with them, that it is phones are put away, everything else is put away, and it's what do you guys want to do? And I want to make sure to get a personal connection with each one of you. There are those days, but the majority of the days, I have the blessing now of being able to work at home. I created schools so that they could be there and I was there too. People go, oh, it must be nice. You get to see your kids all day. It is nice. But it's because I worked 7 days a week for 7 years to make sure that was a thing, to be there with them. Right. And then that quality time doesn't have to be oh, well, gosh, if I can't post this on Instagram, if I can't put, no, your quality time, it is the culmination of all of the minutes and the hours and the years that you spend.
Mm-hmm.
The time is quality now because I work to be a quality human being. And two, my 13-year-old daughter, well, we have 13 years of history of just very relaxed, fun conversations, hanging out, chatting through anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. We've got 13 years of history that makes every minute we spend together fun and enjoyable. And nothing's perfect. There's no such thing as a panacea. There's no such thing as perfect parent, perfect kids. None of that exists. But we've been perfectly consistent at making sure we're all on the same page, on the same mission together. And that makes all the difference in the world. And then we're big on, we have family rules. That's a contract that we have. We have family meetings that we host every single week to make sure that we're all on the same page with all of it. But I mean, we have day in, day out, just this flow together where everybody is on a mission on their own, on a mission together, and peace up here. So
Mm.
even the days that there's a 16-hour workday for dad, everybody knows he's got a 16-hour workday today. That's okay. We might just see him here and there. That's fine. We're not missing out on anything.
Mm.
That's
Um,
consistency over the years.
yeah, I think that's great. And there's something that I coach a lot of dads, and one of the things that I tell them, listen, kids spell love Time. And the more time you spend with them, the greater the love grows and the greater the bond grows. I truly believe in the way that I raised my boys and how I was interactive with them and intentional about my time with them. I truly believe it has resulted in them being in their 20s and two of my best friends because
Yeah,
we had
sure.
that relationship throughout their whole lives. Don't get me wrong. There have been plenty of bad times, right? There have been plenty of tough times. There
Sure.
have been plenty of times, dads and sons bang heads a lot. But so we had those times. But because of how much I love them and how much not only I love them, but they knew I loved them and they knew I
Yeah.
was trying to be intentional with my time with them is because of where or has resulted in where we are today. So I think that's fascinating. I came across I was telling you before we started recording that when my wife and I last year went to North Carolina to kind of see some things and check things out, I was sitting
Yeah.
in the airport and we had a couple hours before the flight. So I was sitting in the airport and just kind of, goofing off on my phone. It was just me and my wife. And I witnessed there were two different families that were sitting, one kind of right next to me and another one just kind of a few, across from me a bit. And the dad of the family was sitting next to us. He was on his phone the whole time we were sitting there like,
Yeah.
and his two kids kept running up to him and trying to ask him questions, and he was completely ignoring him, just
Yeah.
completely. So they'd try to ask him questions, like tap on his leg, that, and then they would just run off because they weren't getting
Yeah.
his attention. Then the other family was sitting across from me. The dad, I didn't even see a cell phone in his hand, and he was kind of not roughhousing, but kind of playing around with his kid and doing different things with his kids. And he was intentional about his time to kind of keep them entertained in this terrible situation of just sitting in an airport and waiting for the next flight. Where this one
Yeah.
dad, I literally wanted to get up to and go over to the one dad. I really did, because I was
Yeah.
like, you have no idea what you're doing to your kids right now. You have no clue. Because let me tell you something. I wanted to say, let me tell you something. When your kids really need you, they won't come to you because they know you're not available.
That's
And
right.
that's a sad thing. So yeah, I wanted, my wife's like, Bryan, keep it cool. So
Get it though.
anyways, that's
That is,
awesome. I think that's really cool that you're doing that for your kids. And I think it's really cool. I can see that you're being intentional with them. I know you're busy and you have your busy days. That's okay. But your intentional time, regardless of how long it is, as long as it's intentional, they see that and you're there for them. And that's awesome.
yeah.
Let me ask you this one last
Yes, sir.
thing. People wanted to look you up, learn a little bit more about you, best places for them to do that, and anything you want to promote.
I appreciate that. ApogeeStrong.com is the best place to go. APOGEE Strong. We got a little documentary that's in there about what we're doing on the schooling side. That points to all the different verticals that we have and the foundations that we've also launched, because we want to make these programs and these campuses accessible as well. The downside of privatized ed is you got to pay for it. We get that. I understand that. So we're trying to make that as accessible as possible as well through our foundations. And we even developed a payment processing system so that if businesses wanted to use that instead of, Stripe or PayPal. So it functions the exact same way, but instead of us making money on the margin, it goes right into the 501(c)(3, that 100% of that goes out to scholarships. So we just want to make this, education available to all. And so those are the best places to go. I'm on Instagram at my name, and I'm always glad to help there too. But apogeestrong.com is the best place to go for sure.
Awesome. Well, before I close, I want to
Yes.
ask you one last question because I meant to ask this earlier. How
Sure.
did you come up with the name Apogee Strong?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my business partner, Tim Kennedy, is a, military guy, former UFC middleweight and amazing human, but obviously military legend, as well. And so we were, virtually sitting around a round table, and it was a bunch of his, crew over at Sheepdog Response. It was a bunch of these like special forces, secretive, bad dudes, and then me, and just sitting there kicking around names. And one of the guys, we were just kicking these things around, and one of the guys was on his computer, and he goes, "You ever think everything we're talking about is going towards the summit, like trying to reach the top of something and trying to optimize, father, trying to optimize education, trying to optimize your health, trying to optimize. You ever think about naming it like apogee, like you're moving towards the apogee of something?" And it was one of those things where all of us just went, "Yep, that's it. You nailed it right there." So yeah, shout out to a guy named Justin, and I don't even know his last name, and I haven't spoken to him since, but he brought it to our attention and we ran with it.
Well, that runs along with kind of like your mission. We want kids to thrive, and
That's
thriving
it.
means growing, and growing means trying to get better each and every day and trying to reach the top. That's Apogee. Cool. That's
There you go.
awesome.
That's it. Yes,
Well,
sir.
listen, Matt, thank you very much for being on, brother. I am super excited to finally get to know you a little bit, and I am so looking forward to our continued friendship. And we're definitely going to
Same,
be staying in touch. And if I'm ever in North Carolina, I will definitely look you
same
up. And
word.
if you're in South Carolina, you better call me because I want to
And we're
treat you to
not
lunch or
far. So
something. Right?
depending on where you are in South Carolina, we're not far. We were just in South Carolina last weekend for a thing for my daughter. So we're there a lot. So yeah, I look
Awesome.
forward to it, Brian. Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey guys, this has been another episode of Dad Up. Listen, I want to thank my good friend Matt Beaudreau for being on the show. check out his website, apogeestrong.com. Make sure you go check him out on Instagram, give him a follow. If you have any questions about things that he has talked about today, please reach out to him. He's very accessible, unless you're going to send him a weird DM, then he probably won't answer. But if you have a question about what he's talked about today, about his company, his schooling system, all that, please reach out to him. And as always, you can reach out to me. But listen, more importantly, if you have not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at daduppodcast. Until next time, everyone, dad up.